Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us. It's been a big week in Parliament with the budget. You said this week, at one time, the budget was never released to the media ahead of time. And you said it's important that people hear it on the floor of the House first. You suggested it was something we've got to get back to. How?
Well, I've got to say, I was disappointed and I made my feelings known that the budget is special. The budget is about the House hearing it first, but also it's about business. It's about everybody else, isn't it? You know, to play it through the newspaper is not the way we should be doing this. And you could argue, well, things are slightly different. We've got a pandemic, people aren't in the chamber. That's no excuse. But I think what we can say is, look, let's learn from this and let's have a real budget that's in real time, on the floor of the House, being delivered without the world knowing what's coming first. You know, because in the end, it's not acceptable. What have gone of the days when somebody like Dalton resigned on his way to present the budget? You know, that's when we really did take this House seriously. And I want those days back. In fairness, the Leader of the House, he agrees with me. MPs complain as well. And quite rightly, it's for the Chancellor next year to do the right thing by the House of Commons and the right thing by MPs who were elected to listen, to be on the edge of the seats, and waiting to know how and what impact is coming. You know, I do worry, and we've got to get it back. And hopefully we've now got, between now and the next budget, to say, let's do this in the right way and use the House of Commons. Not every media newspaper over the last 7 days, you know, whether it's radio, whatever, everybody had been briefed, everybody had had it. Not acceptable, and it's not the way that this House will be run.
Very clear. You mentioned the fact that we're in the pandemic, the chamber's pretty much empty. It's difficult. It's obviously more difficult to hold the executive to account with 20 MPs sat on either side. Is it a problem for democracy, the lack of accountability?
I think you're absolutely right. I want the chamber back. I want the House back to normal. I want MPs really getting, you know, debating, interventions, all the things we're missing. We really do miss that. But the alternative was worse, wasn't it? We either keep the government being scrutinised by having the opposition in there and the government coming to the House, because there was a danger that people in other parliaments, they actually closed down the parliament. We didn't do that. We kept the whole show on the road, and we kept it going. Of course, it's not in the numbers I wish, and it's not in the way I wish, but at least we allowed the government to bring the legislation forward. But just as importantly, we allowed for the opposition to be able to scrutinise that. And that's always been my priority, keeping the doors open, keeping the House going. Of course, it's on a reduced number. And of course, we've got to get back to normality. And it's about setting a roadmap out of where we are now and looking to the future.
Tell us what that roadmap might look like.
Well, there we are. You see, I don't want to be accused of being a chancellor that briefs everybody before. So what I would say is that on Monday we have the commission, and I've asked for the roadmap to be provided. And what I want to do is be in line with what the government statement is. Of course, we will always work with Public Health England, and we will work our way out of this. And first of all, as we know, there are limited numbers on the estate, and that's what's kept us safe. So it's about doing in stages. What I don't want to do is to get to the middle of June and then everybody drops off the edge. That wouldn't be right, neither for MPs nor staff of both MPs and the House. It's about working from now, after the commission meeting, and taking it in stages. And that is reintroducing MP staff back into the House, ensuring that we begin to open the facilities within the House. And it's about bringing more people back onto their estate, not only who work for the House, as I say, you know, hopefully we'll see more journalists as well. It's about getting the village active again, getting the village back to where we used to be. But it will be done in stages and completely in line with what the government's announced as well. And I think if we can mirror that, we'll be doing it in the best possible way for all.
When would you like to see the roadmap published?
Well, hopefully, as we say, we do publish the agenda for discussion that takes place on Monday. So I would be expecting that agenda to go up there. That should give a hint of what we will certainly be discussing. And from Monday, we should be making the announcements of what decisions have taken. And what I don't want to do is, look, I've provided the roadmap. I am going to take it to the Commission, and I want the commissioners who sit on there to ensure that they're part of it as well, and that we are decision makers. So it's about trying to move forward. As we know, the virtual proceedings, the chamber business is a matter for the House. It's a matter for the leader. It's the other parts that I can deliver on. So actual virtual proceedings will be down to the leader of the House to bring that to the House to make that decision. So we've got to distinguish what's under my jurisdiction and, of course, what's under the leader. And what I'm doing is planning my roadmap out, and I know very well that the leader will be wanting to provide his roadmap as well. And it's about dovetailing those roadmaps together for the benefit of all.
Do you think you'll both agree that it would be good to see a parliament operating as normal before the summer recess?
If we can, of course, that's what we all want. And what I don't want to do is get it wrong. But my hope is that we've got the middle of June. That's what I'm really looking for. But of course, I can't predict what might happen. We've had a couple of variants come in that's got people very nervous again, and quite rightly. All things being equal, my objective is to put us completely in line with what the rest of the country are doing. And I want to make sure that by the middle of June, we will be reflecting what's happened outside. And of course, I want to put some life back into the gym. I want that electricity. I want it to generate the fun. I want it to generate, not nastiness, far from it, but real good debate, good points of order, good interventions, all the thing that this House stands for and that we've missed. I want to see that coming back. I'll be working so hard to make that happen, and I know others will as well. And of course, we've got to take people with us, and we've got to reflect on the people who work here, and we've got to say, look, we've found new ways of working. Some of them we'll want to keep, some of them we won't, but it's about picking the best of what works for all. So it's not just about MPs, it's not just about the House Commons staff or the MP staff, it's about all of us. This is the village. We're going to make this village work, and we're going to deliver it in the way that we used to, with whatever's needed to take that forward.
I know what a unique place, well, in fact, everybody knows what a unique place that House of Commons chamber is, but anybody who has sat in it knows that it's small. In normal times, it's very small. There's not enough space for all MPs to sit there. How is it possible to contemplate social distancing if we're going to have that for some time to come? When MPs are engaged in making passionate speeches, the odd bit of phlegm may come out. Do you sort of reflect on how the unique nature of that House of Commons chamber requires or could require some unique adjustments to allow for our new world?
What I'd say is, spittle's there. Obviously, if you're speaking, it's so easy for it to be spread around. And that's about getting the safety right as well, isn't it? This is about protecting all of us. My view is I'd love to see everyone who comes into the village vaccinated. I think, that's a plus. In the House of Lords, they're obviously ahead of us in the number of people that's vaccinated due to the age profile. But in the end, we know that it's rolling out very quickly. The quicker we can roll that vaccine out, the happier I will be. So I'd love to be able to say everybody who comes and works on this estate has had that vaccine. And that's the key to it, isn't it? We're trying to work, obviously, what we're saying is if there are spare vaccines, can we make sure that rather than waste them, that it could be made available to staff to make sure that they feel safe, that they're getting, that they feel that they're going to be protected as well. So, what we can say is we've got some screens at the moment to try and ensure that people do feel safely. The Sergeant at Arms is screened in as well. And what we've got to do, we know it's a very limited chamber, and you're right to ask, well, how can we get more people around? My view is we've got to look at the regulations going forward. We've got to, at the moment, we're all wearing face masks, and quite right when we're going around. And in fairness to members, they keep them on until they're about to speak. So people have adapted really well. So what we don't want to do is put people at risk. But what we've got to do is make sure people feel safe. working with the new regulations that are coming out. And if need be, we'll have to be bold. And part of that is, as you know, we put the security screen in to protect MPs from the public, the viewing gallery. It might be that we have to be really radical and remove that screen and put new microphones in and TV cameras in order to get the numbers up, because I'm not willing to put up with us being at this level forever. So what we're going to have to seriously look at is real alternatives. I've asked for the cost of that to come forward, because if things don't change, I need to have real alternatives to get those numbers back. And it may be as radical as taking the screen down, opening up into a much bigger chamber to do that. But of course, it will be for the Commission to have the discussion on Monday. It will be for the Commission to take forward the recommendations. But what I will say is we have got the roadmap. We have got plans to start opening up more than we were previously. So between us all, we can do that. Because in the end, having so few journalists on budget day, who's ever thought of that? They're normally hanging over the gallery at us. And it was the limited numbers. You didn't even feel that that was coming across well. So, of course, it's about everybody who should be there. The more we can get back, the happier we'll be. But it will always be done safely.
Just thinking about the screens, because the screens are in front of the public on the left-hand side of the gallery, but there's no question about the public still being able to see those proceedings, or is that space may become necessary for MPs to take part?
It may be that we need that space. As you know, at the moment, the public can't come in, and that's part of the issue going forward. That will probably be one of the later liftings of people coming in. The fact is, that if need be, the priority is about debate, the priority is about legislation, it's about scrutiny. And if it takes that we can't get the numbers because the rules aren't going to move, I've got to, as I say, I've got to be more creative. And part of that is that what was there for the public on a temporary basis, we will have to expand the chamber. That will be one of my proposals that I will go forward with. If the roadmap's not going to show us that we can't have the numbers in, I'm going to have to look at real alternatives.
You said that you'd like everyone who comes in to be vaccinated. MPs, staff, the public eventually.
The journalists.
Journalists. But the reality is the vaccine isn't mandatory. So there's no real way of making any of those groups come in with having the vaccine, is there?
Well, there's a choice then, isn't there? At the moment, you have no choice. If you're not entitled to the vaccine, you can't have it. But if the vaccine is available and people choose not to, that's their right. Well, at least they'll have been offered it. And I think that's the important measure. So people make that distinction, and it's themselves that they're putting at risk. So that would be up to them. My view is always simple, that everybody should be vaccinated. But I do recognise those people who refuse to. That is their right. And they're putting themselves at risk, as long as we're not putting others at risk. And that's what I'm concerned about.
And if they can't, obviously you can't force them to be vaccinated, but it may be that in order to enter the chamber, mandatory testing may be necessary as a fallback to those who haven't been vaccinated.
Well, the good thing is we're doing testing all the time now. It works really well, and everybody's, people are saying to it, great, fantastic. It works really well. We're getting the results through. We've set it up. And I've got to say, the one thing about the House of Commons, as you well know, Laura, is that they're brilliant at delivering, with some great people who work here. The great people that make things happen. And the nurses that work for the House have been absolutely fantastic. The way that the COVID team, they've made this a COVID secure workplace. They've really worked hard at that. And part of having that testing brought in has made a real difference. And that's for staff, it's for journalists, it's for MPs. It really works well. And I've got to say, there's no anti to that. People are really pleased. It gives them the reassurance. And that's what we've got to be able to do. We really have got to reassure the people who come onto this SD that we do take it serious.
Have you had your first jab?
I have. Believe it or not, I had it last Thursday. I walked across the river. My own GPs had said I was due to have it on Tuesday, but of course the House was sitting and they made arrangements, and I walked across the river and I went in and got the vaccine. Fantastic, apart from a bit of a sore arm. No grumbles whatsoever. And what I didn't do, I didn't want to be pushed to the front. I've waited and waited until it was right. In fact, my wife, who's quite a bit younger than me, she had hers done before I did, which is absolutely outrageous, And I've got to say, it would have been wrong to say that that should be done first. Far from it. I've waited my time. And, there is reassurance out there to people to say, I've no qualms about having it. I wanted to wait. I am a type 1 diabetic. I'm high at risk. So, I'm very pleased it's now being done. And I think that's what's important. So I just want to say to people and people who listen to this, please, if you get the opportunity to have the vaccine, please do so.
Mr. Speaker, it's International Women's Day tomorrow. Will you be marking it in the House of Commons?
Absolutely. We'll be flying the flag. And of course, it's Commonwealth Day as well. So on the same day, we'll be raising both flags to celebrate International Women's Day and Commonwealth Day as well. It's so important that we mark these historical dates.
First time a flag has been raised for International Women's Day and Commonwealth Day, is it?
Absolutely. They may have flown a flag somewhere on the building, I'm not sure where, but these are dedicated flagpoles at the front of Parliament that will be there, and quite rightly, to mark major events that happens. And that's what these flagpoles have been put there. And there's no nicer day and no more important day than flying it on International Women's Day and Commonwealth Day.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for your time.